Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the invisible web that connects almost every single aspect of our daily lives. Whether it's the smartphone you're watching this on, the clothes you're wearing right now, or even the coffee you drank this morning, you are participating in a massive, continuous economic cycle. We're talking about the phenomenon of globalization and, interestingly enough, a recent counter-movement that experts are calling the global pendulum. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our structural roadmap. First, we'll answer, what exactly is globalization? Second, we'll uncover the forces driving that integration. Then, we'll weigh the pros and cons, look at the specific impacts on the world and India, and finally explore the recent rise of deglobalization.
Section 1. What is globalization? The basics of a connected world.
So what are we actually talking about here? Well, according to the IMF and the World Bank, globalization basically means the whole world is increasingly behaving as a single, massive, interdependent market. Through trade liberalization and the cross-border movement of goods, services, capital, and technology, distant, separate markets are integrating into one giant global system. And this brilliantly illustrates the human side of the equation. Sociologist Anthony Giddens called it the intensification of social relations worldwide. This totally bridges the gap between massive, abstract economic shifts and our everyday local lives. Think about it. An event happening literally thousands of miles away can directly dictate the price of your groceries today, or even the availability of your next job. Wild, right?
Moving on to Section 2. The forces driving integration. The engine of the global market.
So, what pushed the world toward this massive, single-market integration? It's really a mix of interacting forces. You've got international trade, letting us exchange goods and services to leverage global economies of scale. Then, boom, technological advancement. High-speed internet, smartphones, and the massive e-commerce boom allow for instant global communication. Add in faster transportation, like airplanes and those giant container ships, drastically lowering shipping times and costs. And of course, foreign direct investment, pumping capital exactly where it's needed. Now, the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic temporarily threw a wrench in this engine, but global trade proved super resilient, bouncing back sharply as soon as pent-up demand recovered. To ground this abstract theory in everyday reality, consider this number, 36%. Roughly 36% of all shoes and clothing in the US are made in China, compared to just 4% made locally. Seriously, check the tags in your closet after this explainer. That is exactly what a hyper-connected, specialized global economy looks like in practice.
Section 3. Weighing pros and cons. The scales of global integration.
Let's neutrally weigh how this massive integration has shaped societies, starting with the purely economic trade-off. On the positive side, we have enhanced economic growth. By utilizing resources optimally around the world, productivity is boosted, which contributes to higher GDP growth. Pretty great, right? But, and it's a big but, that exact same mechanism creates increased economic vulnerability. Because our economies are so deeply interconnected, if one major market trips and falls, it can trigger a domino effect that drags everyone else down. Next up, the cultural impact. The movement of people and information gives us unparalleled access to foreign cultures. It totally broadens our perspectives and enriches local societies with new ideas and practices. The flip side, though, a real risk of losing cultural identity. The sheer dominance of Western and American culture in global media and products can sometimes diminish or overshadow deeply rooted local traditions.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the complex dynamic it reveals in the global labor market. For talented professionals, multinational corporations expanding across borders creates fantastic, qualitative job opportunities and promotes skill development. Yet at the exact same time, this system can cause massive job displacement for unskilled workers when industries pack up and move operations to countries with cheaper labor markets.
Finally, let's look at technology versus the physical toll on our planet. Globalization absolutely drives global innovation and rapid technological advancement across borders. But this comes at a really steep environmental cost. The wider level of industrialization driven by multinational corporations often accelerates severe environmental degradation, including a big spike in industrial pollution and deforestation.
Section 4. Impact. World and India. Global footprints and local realities. Let's move to the India and see how this builds into real-world applications on a global scale, and specifically within India.
Globally, we're seeing increased competition bringing much better consumer choices and massive flows of foreign direct investment. But we also see those employment threats to developed nations that we just talked about. Now look at the Indian context.
India faces a unique balancing act, pushing for inclusive economic growth while fiercely protecting its cultural identity. Furthermore, with all that foreign capital flowing in, Indian companies have had to adopt a strict focus on sustainable business practices and an increased awareness of corporate social responsibility to manage the challenges of rapid industrialization.
Section 5. The Rise of Deglobalization. The Pendulum Swings Back.
Which brings us to the modern day. That immense push for integration we've been discussing, it's starting to face a counter-movement: deglobalization. Basically, this is a growing trend towards less global cooperation. It's characterized by national politicians hesitating to cede authority to international institutions. Instead of looking outward, a lot of nations are increasingly looking inward right now, prioritizing national sovereignty and protectionism.
So the crucial point is understanding what actually triggered this swing. Based on our sources, it's essentially a three-step process. Step 1. Rising geopolitical tensions, which naturally spark market protectionism. Step 2. Pandemics and global crises. COVID-19 totally exposed just how vulnerable our global supply chains really are, which spurred immediate localization efforts. And Step 3. A renewed push for the preservation of local culture, with nations actively attempting to reduce the influence of global forces on their national identities.
But listen, just as globalization had its costs, stepping back from it does too. Impartially speaking, the potential costs of deglobalization are huge. It means reduced economic integration, leading to limited market access. It strains international relations, which brings a higher risk of conflict. It hinders innovation because countries are sharing less tech. And perhaps most critically, it creates massive challenges for tackling global issues. Without global cooperation, our international response to shared threats, like health pandemics and environmental crises, becomes fractured and severely weakened.
So what does this all mean? After decades of rapid borderless expansion, is the era of boundless globalization definitively over? Or are we simply watching it evolve into a more cautious, regionalized model? The pendulum continues to swing, and how it settles will define the economic reality of our future. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.